the other two. And we have gotten a very good feedback from the other two resident groups.
I need you to talk a little louder.
A little louder, maybe this may help.
Oh,
Would that-
Bluetooth is waiting for a connection.
Does it work? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I think it does work. Can you hear me better
Yes,
now?
thank you.
So, the subject that we wanted to discuss with everybody, it is the subject of emergency preparedness. When we talk about that, it's probably easier. I don't think that we can teach you. Probably Obi and I have been here in Florida a lesser amount of time than the rest of you have been.
That noise,
It stops.
oh,
It
okay.
does stop.
Okay.
But in any case, we wanted to make sure that before we hit the rest of this uglier season that we have been told, that the rest of us, our partners and you, we are all prepared for, in case that we have a hurricane or some other, power outage or emergencies that can happen here on campus. So these are the goals for us for today, and just so you know, we will post this PowerPoint presentation, and as much as I do not like being recorded live on camera, dear Blake is recording this, and it will be put on the website as well, for the residents that are out of town. I will not spend a lot of time to explain a lot of the history on how the hurricanes form, what we have seen in Florida and Naples regarding those. You know all of that. And I know it is provided on every website that you can Google hurricane, you'll be able to find that. But, so I will go through those slides fast, and you have those in front of you as well. It talks about the naming, where we are right now. I always was curious how they chose those names, by the way, and how do those form. So let's skip all those that kind of information, because I don't think that it's relevant for this group. You are more knowledgeable than the rest of us. But I want to start a little bit here. What do these wind speeds tell us? At this point, category 4 and 5 can produce devastating results for communities like us and for overall, what's out there in the community. The good thing about us is that we have inherited some very, very nicely built buildings. When we pursued this and we got some of the specifications for these buildings, the glass and what we have here, we were told that we have been built, obviously, according to the wind code that exists for the area in here, which is the most stringent, and it is the same one as Miami-Dade and Broward County are built upon, which is a good thing. Normally, under that kind of construction, we can endure the wind speed up to 170 miles per hour. At that point, if it reaches higher than that, we'll probably have damage to our buildings and to our hurricane shutter glass that we have here. But both the glass and the buildings are built to that wind code. So when we talk about hurricane preparedness, what is the plan in here? For starters, I want to mention that our plan, it is not just Moorings Park Grand Lake plan. We, the three communities, Gray Oaks and Original Campus and us, have always and will always join efforts to make sure that we have a plan that in general is similar for every community, but yet we are very unique. We have a unique campus, we are brand new. We don't have some of the resources they have, but they have other challenges. They are older as buildings compared to us. And they may have other problems when it comes to how vulnerable their population is. They tend to have populations that are older than our grouping of residents. So they may have to put additional plans in place in addition to what we commonly would have together. And for us, we have to put different plans together. New buildings pose different challenges for different communities. So when we look at overall planning, we start with a comprehensive emergency plan. We look into resident communication planning and preparing you as well. We look at our partner training and what we have to do in order for everybody to be equipped and have the knowledge. And then we look at the infrastructure investment. What do we need to have at hand in order for us to be equipped and ready in case of an emergency? So if we were to go to the CMP or the emergency plan, every time you see this green binder, this is our little show and tell. This green color is not permitted to be replicated and used with any other documentation here on our campus. The reason for it, we want this to be easily identified as our emergency preparedness book. Now this one says Kate in there. This is my personal copy. It travels with me. It comes home with me. Because, you know, normally emergency situations always happen in the most inconvenient of times, at least in my experience.
Friday afternoon.
Yes. There is another book in there that if any of the residents feel curious to see what we have on this book, you feel free to do some reading. It's pretty dry reading, but it is in there for your reference. And we have several other copies that are located on Ovi's desk and the rest of our team, and also an electronic version of this. So why is this book so important? For starter, this document is not just a simple manual that Ovi and Katie put together to have. This is a document that goes for revision to the authorities, the Collier County Fire Chief, and also to the Naples community. So we have their approval in writing that they have read this and approved that this is a very good plan to have in place if we were to go through a hurricane and other emergencies. So this book gets updated once a year, reviewed once a year, and made changes once a year. Now this book is very thin right now. It's going to get bigger, and hopefully we can find the green binder in a thicker version. Why am I saying that? Right now this book contains only the first phase, these 3 buildings. And as we grow as a community, especially when we add the clubhouse into it, there is so much more. These are very complex buildings, and there is a lot that goes on to prepare an entire community for emergency situations. So this book will continue to be revised and grown, and we will always, though, keep an updated copy for anybody that has questions. We also have posted on the emergency site on the website a lot of information that can become helpful. We talked about like some of what this book assesses is it shows who is in charge. In case of emergency, what's the hardest thing, right? To know who's in charge. At that point, things can become very chaotic, and if you don't have a good leader, things can get out of hand. It gives all the options about how do we proceed, about various scenarios in there, assignments of staff. It shows about supplies, vendor agreements, and I will let Ovi speak a little bit about that, and what do we do if we were to leave the campus. So with that, back to Ovi to speak a little bit more about the facilities portion of this.
Okay, I'll give you a little bit information about the generators, how they work, how we maintain them, what they do for us, and I'll take you through that process step by step. I hope you are aware by now that we have 3 generators on the campus. We have a small one, which is about 60 kilowatts. It's behind the west wall by the gatehouse, which powers up just the gatehouse. It's important for the access control, but also on the 2nd floor of the gatehouse, we have all the electronics, not just for the access control, but for the SARA system, emergency proport system, fire alarm system, and others. The other 2 generators are much, much larger. They are 600 kilowatts. One is in front of G building, and one is right here. You can see it through the windows between the building H and I. These generators, they have fuel tanks of a capacity of 1,500 gallons. If we run them at 100% load, they will be good for about 36 hours. At 25% load, it's about 172 hours. For that reason, if you look here, we took the average for the 50% load, and they will maintain power to our buildings for about 70 hours. Now, before I go in more details, I have to say that we exercise these buildings automatically by a computer every Tuesday, every week, for about half hour. And once a month, we exercise them under load remotely, or we can do it physically through the transfer switches. We topped off all the fuel tanks. We are at a max capacity, but we monitor those every week, as I mentioned. Then, as we lose power, in about 3 to 7 seconds, if we lose the normal power, the generator will take over. When that happens, we'll power up few things in your homes. If you go in the laundry rooms, you'll have multiple electrical panels. 2 of them, they are low voltage panels, and 2 of them are electrical panels. The large one is normal power. The small one that you'll see, it's a gray small panel, that's the emergency power. If you open that panel, you'll see the schedule. That will tell you exactly what is powered up during that time, but I will tell you right now. We'll have 4 outlets. One, it's for the refrigerator. I'm not suggesting during that time to remove the refrigerator to plug anything else in. It's very hard, you may scratch the floor, you may have other problems, don't move it. The second one, it's important, it's in none of the low voltage panels. It's a GFI, it is marked, but you see a lot of stuff plugged in. That's for the Wi-Fi, for the SARA system, and others. Again, we do not suggest for you to remove those plugs to plug something else, because then when the power is restored, you have to redo everything and will take longer for the systems to reset. The 2 outlets that we recommend for you to use, it's also one in the laundry room, and you should know by now that we mark them with an EM on the outlet.
They look like that if
Yes,
you...
look exactly like that. And the second one is in your master bedrooms, maybe left or right wall as you come out from the master bathroom, okay? Bedroom, bathroom. You should see them. At that point, you can plug anything on those, and not anything, as less as possible, but if you have a need for extra power, you can use those. Most of the lights in your homes will be powered, which is good. That means having that light won't be a trip hazard as you navigate through the apartment or your home. Now,